Welcome back. Long time no see. It's only been an hour, ladies and gentlemen, but I missed you anyway. And I am so excited because we have Dr. Steve Conway and our good friend Erica Reib here today to talk and answer more questions about all of this crazy stuff with unemployment benefits for the self-employed. Wow. So before we get started, Dr. Conway, did you have a couple of things you wanted to say before we turn it over to Erica?
Yes, I will. And thank you, Christy, again for hosting this. We did this once last week, so we had some basic information on employment law, and there was just a lot of new things coming out. So today we're actually going to have the train. So today we're going to have.
Oh, sorry, that's the train at my house. I'm going to turn my.
Is it? So today we're going to actually go over something that is brand new for a lot of chiropractors. Since most of us are self-employed and the work that we do, unemployment really was not something that we could work with in the past. However, this new law that came out, there's some provisions in there that basically it expanded it out so that we actually have unemployment for the self-insured or self-employed. And so we're going to talk about that today. And the other aspect we're going to do, because this just came out over the weekend, and this one's going to touch basically every single chiropractic office. And Eric and I decided we're going to have it next week. And so I'm sure we'll talk about it again next week as we're working through it, but we felt this was so important and just needs to be done quickly. So we're also going to talk today about an exemption that came out and the way the Department of Labor, how they described it. There's this whole document, and it will make a difference that most chiropractic offices will be exempt from some of the sick pay and FMLA things that we talked about last week. So I think we're going to talk about that today too. So again, I'm very proud to have Erica Reib come with us. So for the new people that are here, she's part of the O'Neill, Cannon, Hollman, DeJong, and Laing law firm that's based out of Milwaukee. She's an expert in employment law. She just got here 1 minute ago because she was already giving another webinar to another group from 3 to 4. So she's very much in demand. We're so happy she's back with us. So Erica, I'll let you take it.
Sure. So thanks for having me again. For those of you who were at our webinar last week, as Dr. Conway mentioned, we're going to have some updates on that, and I think we're going to do another one next week for people with questions. But I'm going to start out with talking about some of the unemployment expansion under the CARES Act and what we currently know. I think we're still waiting for some additional regulations on the CARES Act, which was passed last Friday, if I'm not mistaken. The time has gone very rapidly and somehow very slowly recently. So we're waiting for some additional regulations on this, but we're going to talk about what we know right now about that. So kind of quick disclaimer, this webinar is based on the federal expansion of the CARES Act and under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Provision. This is a federal law. This is general information. This can't constitute legal advice, and I'm not giving you state law advice. Your state law will be different, and I think that's particularly important in this presentation because the states govern unemployment. Each state has its own unemployment division, and so there may be some small differences here and there. But we're going to talk about the federal law today. Obviously, if you have specific questions, check with an attorney in your state. And again, this doesn't establish an attorney-client privilege between us or my firm, but I'm hoping that I can provide you with some good information and use the chat function for questions, and we'll try to address that kind of as they come up or at the end here today. Again, so as I started out, there are some caveats to my presentation today, is that we will be waiting for additional guidance from the Department of Labor on the CARES Act. The Department of Labor came out with yesterday some official regulations regarding the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. So that took about 12 or 13 days. So since this was past Friday, hopefully by a week from Friday, we'll have some additional information. Again, some state interpretation, the states could interpret the guidance or the regulations in different ways. So there may be some variation state to state depending on where you are. And I know, the states are, I've read articles about, a number of different states. I've obviously looked at Wisconsin's. I saw an article from Colorado, but a lot of these states are saying that the federal changes to this may take a couple of weeks to implement for the states. I think I saw There have been 6.3 million unemployment claims filed in the last, new unemployment claims filed in the last 2 weeks, and that's just kind of a huge hit to the system that is not typically dealing with that large of an increase in any kind of one short time period. So kind of be as patient as you can with the system. It should all be up to speed in a couple of weeks. So we're going to talk about kind of under this unemployment expansion who is eligible. So normally a person is eligible for unemployment if they're terminated from their employer through no fault of their own, or if they quit for good reason. Typically business owners, especially of small businesses, 100% owners, like a lot of you probably are not eligible for unemployment. Sometimes people seeking part-time work aren't eligible for unemployment. Independent contractors typically aren't eligible for unemployment, and employees who have only worked for their employer for a very short period of time. Under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance provision of the CARES Act, it's going to expand that eligibility to additional people, including self-employed workers and business owners. So, people like chiropractors and podiatrists and people who own kind of smaller healthcare practices, own their own practices, will be allowed to eligible to apply for this benefit and get additional unemployment benefits. So that's kind of a new expansion and something that might work for a lot of you who have had to close your offices because patients aren't coming in, or depending on your state, stay at home or safer in place order aren't allowed to operate your business. This does not, the unemployment will not be available to individuals who have the ability to telework. So for example, if you are keeping your practice open and you're saying to your receptionist or something like that, you can telework, they will not then be allowed to apply for unemployment. And if the person is receiving paid sick leave or other paid leave benefits, then they're also not allowed to apply for unemployment under these circumstances. So what events make me eligible? So I don't know how large this slide is on your screen, but I know that this is kind of a lot of information on one slide, but I wanted to kind of touch all of the most important, all of the reasons, and I know you can take these home, or you get these slides emailed to you, and they're all files, so you can, oh shoot, can any of you see me? I just got an email.
Yep.
Oh, okay, sorry, I got an email from Greg Lyons, who's watching today, and he said I was frozen, so hopefully I have unfrozen. So hopefully you didn't miss too much of what I was saying. So anyway, these are the reasons that you're eligible. If you have, because usually the reason you're eligible for unemployment is if you have, if you're able to work and not working through no fault of your own. So usually if you're sick, if you're, unable to work because you're sick, you're not eligible for unemployment. But under this expansion, if you've been diagnosed with COVID-19 or experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and seeking a medical diagnosis, you are eligible for unemployment. Again, if a member of your household was diagnosed and you are not working because you're caring for them, if you have primary caregiving responsibilities for a child whose school or child care provider is closed because of COVID-19, and you can't work because of that, then you are allowed to take unemployment and will be eligible. If you can't work because either your quarantine order says you're not allowed to leave your house, or your place of employment or your healthcare provider has advised that you not go to work, then you'll be allowed to have unemployment. If somebody was supposed to start work and is then laid off because the employer is closed or there's no telework available, they'll also be allowed unemployment then. If the employee had to quit as a direct result because of COVID-19, or if the individual's place of employment is closed as a direct result of COVID-19. So I see that Samantha Bolt just posted a question about, in Colorado, you guys have been forced to close. And so because you've been forced to close, I assume under a state order regarding COVID-19 that you would then be eligible to apply for unemployment. This does not cover people who just don't want to work because they're concerned about getting coronavirus. So if your office is open and you are expecting people to come to work just because they say, I'm worried about coronavirus, and there's no kind of medical reason, their doctor hasn't said that they're particularly susceptible to getting coronavirus and therefore should self-quarantine. Otherwise, if they're just saying, I don't want to be here, I'm uncomfortable with coming to work, they probably then won't be eligible for unemployment. So what will I do? So under this federal system, it is an additional 6 weeks on top of the state unemployment benefits for up to 4 months. And the CARES Act also provides an extension of normal state unemployment benefits for an additional 13 weeks. So whatever the normal amount is, there's an additional $600. And then whatever the typical time frame is, like in Wisconsin, for example, employees are typically eligible for 26 weeks of unemployment benefits. This will extend that to 39 weeks of benefits. So when is this effective? So for state level benefits, what the state would allow you, which is different state to state. It's usually about 40% of total wages up to a certain amount. I know, for example, in Wisconsin, it maxes out at $370 per week. So that would be backdated to January 27th of 2020 if they had lost employment before then. The federal $600 is not going to be backdated. That is kind of moving forward. And again, this is effective through December 31st of 2020. So if, people, if your practice closed today, oh no. Hi, I don't know if you can see me if I'm just not moving. Can you see me?
You're doing fine. I think some of the
different right. For those of you who weren't here last week, I also had connectivity issues last week. So I think I'm just particularly paranoid about losing my audio or video.
Yeah, no, you're doing fine.
Okay, so effective through December 31st of 2020. So again, if you lost employment, today you would be eligible. But if for some reason you ended up closing, I know different states are going through different orders. Those orders have been changing. So if for some reason, you're open today, you're continuing to stay open, but 2 weeks from now, your state says you all need to close. Now chiropractors or podiatrists or whoever are no longer essential businesses, essential healthcare. You will then be able to later apply through the end of this year. It could, of course, extend past 2020, December 31st of 2020. We're hoping obviously that everything is wrapped up by then, but for now it's through December 31st. Again, as I mentioned, states administer unemployment benefits. So when you will actually start to receive benefits may vary state by state. I think places like, New York, California, Washington that have already, kind of drastically increased their COVID-19 cases and their unemployment numbers from that are probably going to have a harder time processing these payments than some of these kind of, Midwestern states where maybe cases haven't ramped up quite as much. So, those increased claims may lead to a lag, but you should apply as soon as possible. If you've already closed your practice, I would apply now, just so that you wouldn't potentially lose any eligibility. So that is my very quick, because I wanted to be able to kind of take some questions and answers from people. I know that I've seen questions popping up over here that I have not addressed yet.
I'll help you with that too. There's a couple.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, this is excellent. Thank you. So there's a couple that came up. A lot of the chiropractors out there are looking at these specialized loans from SBA that are coming out. There's a 3P one. There's another one that's out there. So some are asking if I apply for those loans, which are kind of meant for payroll and some of the other things too you can work with, but doesn't have to just be payroll. Can I also apply for this unemployment, or is it mutually exclusive?
They're not mutually exclusive. But so you could still, if your office is closed, or if and I think I did see somebody ask if, hours have been greatly reduced.
Right.
In all of those situations, you can apply for unemployment, and it will not necessarily eliminate your ability to get a PPP loan through the SBA under the CARES Act. However, it may affect whether or not, kind of how much of that loan you use, and therefore how much is forgivable. And I am not the expert in this. I have a kind of very high level understanding, but because that is to be used, and I think 75% of it needs to be used for payroll. So if you get the whole amount of the SBA loan, and in 8 weeks you don't use 75% of it for payroll, that portion may become non-forgivable, and you would have to pay it back with some very small interest.
So there's a connection that they should look at the connection, see what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you kind of have to weigh your options there. That if you do remain open, remain paying 100% of payroll, you may not that you get from the SBA loan, you may not need to go on to apply for unemployment in that situation.
Okay, and I see there's a real long one here from Dr. Kent Albrecht, who he actually left us. He was a Wisconsinite, and he decided to go to Colorado. I don't know why. Good friend, nice guy. So Kent, yours is kind of long, so if there's a question or if you were just providing information, we can pass on the information too. If you have a question, just kind of resend it to us. The other ones that are popping in are, can they reduce the hours? Did you talk about that one already? Is this
I think I touched on it minimally, but yes, so that is another reason to apply for unemployment is if the hours are reduced. You can also apply for unemployment. It doesn't have to be, you'll get probably partial unemployment, and the $600 is likely to be prorated in that situation. If you're cut to 50%, you're likely to get more $300. That's some guidance we're waiting on, but that is how typically it does apply.
Okay, and there's a question in here too, because this is new for almost every single person on here.
Right.
Do they apply like everyone else in the state? And will the state know, because normally, this is new with the self-employed, will the state know that they can actually apply?
So the state should know that they can apply. If it gets denied for any reason, so they should apply first, they should apply through the states. That's the only way to get unemployment. So through your own state unemployment insurance division or unemployment compensation division, who your normal employees would apply through them. All of the states should know this by now. If for any reason it would get denied, I would appeal that denial based on the CARES Act, because again, additional guidance will be coming through, and the states may have some catch up to do, but they will all know about this.
Okay, good. And this one keeps popping up too, so let's make sure we have this down, because we have it's a variation on the same theme. But basically say, I've closed my office, laid off my staff, and I only take acute cases on a case-by-case basis. So it's 1 or 2 people, maybe 3 a week or something like that. Am I still officially unemployed, that I can still do this? I guess what they're considering is I'm getting this unemployment, yet I'm seeing people. Mm-hmm. Will there be an issue with that?
There won't be an issue. So I think you should still apply. You will have to still, if you are still taking pay from that, you will still have to report that pay, and so there may be that offset based on on the fact that you're still making some money, but you're not making kind of what you were before. So I would still apply, but you will have to report that. You'll get because none of you have ever filed for unemployment before, you get usually in most states you have to apply weekly to continue getting the benefit, and you have to weekly report any income that you have received. So again, it may offset a little bit, but not entirely.
Okay, good. And Kent is now taunting me with Colorado pictures, but and I do.
It's very sunny in Wisconsin today. If that's any.
I agree. You don't have to taunt me anymore. Let's see. This is a similar one. Okay, now some of these questions start coming on the sick leave, so I think potentially we should bump into that, because that did change from last week, and I think this is going to be very important for all the employers here. So why don't you go through that? We don't have slides for it.
I don't, but I'm happy to just kind of talk off the cuff about it.
Yep.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
Okay, so under the Paid Sick Leave Act, there are some exemptions. There's a small business exemption, which I think has gotten a lot of coverage at this point, and there are also exemptions for healthcare providers and emergency responders. And I know that when we did our presentation last week, we talked about what the healthcare provider exemption was going to mean, and I did that part of the presentation, and I said that at that point I thought it was likely to be a healthcare provider under the FMLA, which would include chiropractors, but may not include certain healthcare extenders, may not include staff. The way that the Department of Labor issued some additional question and answers either last weekend or early this week, and said that a healthcare provider is currently anyone who works in a doctor's office, a hospital, a medical school, some additional places. But at the moment, it appears that anyone who works in a doctor's office can be exempted from that Paid Sick Leave and Emergency Family Medical Leave Act pay and leave. So that's I think a big thing for chiropractic is that, you guys are in, probably slightly smaller offices. You may not be able to have those employees take the leave. And at the moment, it looks like you can exempt all of your staff as healthcare providers. The Department of Labor is, of course, asking employers to be, kind of judicious in that and making sure, to not spread COVID-19 by having too many people in your office and those kind of things. But, at the moment, I think it would be a reasonable exception to say that everybody is a healthcare provider.
I agree. And I want to thank Erica. So she is not only preparing for this, she's been helping us in the background. And I've been working with attorneys across the United States on this one issue when this first came out. So we're discussing looking, because sometimes in your office you have your clinical staff that'll help you with your therapies and those type of actions. And then you'll have your clerical staff that helps your receptionists and insurance people. And we're trying to decide, is this only relate to clinical or is this relate to everyone? And since it says all, and a lot of the discussions too, Erica, that we've had after you and I talked was that every person in that office is a component of that healthcare provider providing those services. So they would basically fall within this. So we're pretty comfortable with saying all employees, which then would help our offices, all these chiropractic offices out there, not have to have that. There's a lot of pressure that came down last week with this, or basically started yesterday, right? That they may have to pay sick leave for their employees. They may have to do all these FMLA, all these things that you're not used to or prepared for. And this new exemption, I think, is really going to be a helpful way. So we will have this again next week when we're doing the whole employment law aspect with all the questions, and we'll have slides and we'll have some examples for you. There's different things that you can do and send out for your employees, and we'll have more data. But I just felt it was important enough that we got today. So Erica, thanks on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will note, so while I think it is, a perfectly, reasonable interpretation to say that they are healthcare providers and can be exempted, they are not exempt. So if you wanted to provide them with the leave, you are allowed to do so and claim the tax benefits.
Exactly. So it's not, it's
they're not excluded, I guess. They're just.
It's a choice, right? The practitioner's choice.
Yes, correct.
Excellent. There was one question here. I'm going to go with this one here. So this was from Scott. Our practice is an S Corp. I was considered employee, no taxes paid to state unemployment. I understanding this funding is federal. I applied through state and was denied. Am I eligible for the 600?
Yes, you should be.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. You should be. So maybe there's
something. Yeah, and I don't know when you applied.
Right.
And so I would, either reapply or appeal that denial based on this expansion.
Oh, interesting. They're looking at their income coming in. So this was unique. I didn't even think of this one. So because the income is not just a patient comes in, pays cash, and walks out. Mm-hmm. A lot of the income that they're getting today or tomorrow will be from services they provided last month. Workers' compensation, PI, insurance, there's always this lag time of I put the claim in and then I get that payment. So they're like, am I still, because I'm making money from past services, is that going to affect my unemployment?
It probably will affect the amount that you receive. I think that's something that hopefully DOL regulations will address, because this is kind of a unique situation that people wouldn't normally be in. But yeah, I would apply because the loss of employment occurred now, or the reduction in hours occurred now. But you would have to report that income, the same as if a patient, if you were kind of doing it on a cash basis and a patient came in today and gave you $300, you would report that income.
Yeah, we'll have to research that one a little bit. I think we'll have to look, because that one, again, guys, this is live. All this stuff is just happening now. We're doing, Erica, I really appreciate you even, all the stuff you've done just in a short period of time. So some of these things, when they pop up, we're doing our best with now, but we'll do some research too. Let's come back with that one next week too, with some stuff on it. Because I think that one, I'd not actually thought of that one. So that was, thank you who sent that in. Trying to see if there's other ones on here as they're working up. Christy, if you see one I'm missing. Oh, here it is. They're asking, so the benefit is 600 a week plus an amount determined by the state based on income level. Is that how unemployment works? Because a lot of these guys have pretty high income levels.
It is based on income level, but in, I think, every state there is a maximum. So, you know, that taps out pretty quickly because it's usually somewhere between 2 something and 3 something a week is the maximum benefit amount. And so you're not going to get more than that because you make significantly more than that per week.
Yeah. And I think I'm getting a lot of these people tell me answers, but I think what a lot of the laws in the past were not built for self-employed, right? These were all built for wage earners or people like that. So when they stopped getting that income, that was their income. And so they're looking for other sources that they might have income, but it wasn't coming from that business. So I think this is going to be unique that we'll have to really look to see what some of those regulations and clarifications coming down. Just like last week, we were telling everybody about these sick pay and FMLA that was going to be happening to every office right under 500 or under 50. And then boom, over the weekend, out comes this new clarification and guidance or what is it, question and answer document. And to this week, we're making different information out to everybody. So these, we will continue to provide these as long, CHUSA has just done a phenomenal job of providing this webinar platform. And we cannot thank Dr. Ray and Christy enough for doing that. But as this information keeps coming up, we'll keep updating everyone on it. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions on here, Christy. Are you seeing anything? I think.
Oh, Christy, I think you might be muted.
Yeah, I either forget to unmute myself or forget to mute myself. How do we apply for the small employer exemption for the FFCRA?
Sure. So there's no application. You do the authorized, there's a term for it, like authorized business representative, which isn't the exact term. So basically, probably you as the owner basically just needs to document why you took the exemption, but there's no documentation necessary for either the small business exemption or the healthcare provider exemption. And you shouldn't file anything with DOL. They're busy and they don't want to see anything from anybody at this point. It is down the road if there are tax issues or lawsuits or something that documentation will be important. So do it and keep it on file, but you don't need to send it to anybody at this point.
Are we eligible for unemployment if we are sole proprietors?
Yes, that will fall into this federal expansion. Where you normally wouldn't be eligible for unemployment, but will be eligible for the federal expansion.
Okay.
I think we've hit them, don't you?
I think so. One person said, Zoe, that's going to be a question for, for Dawn. But I would say probably yes to that question.
Yeah. That's not really, it's dealing with freezing of loans or something like that. So
yeah, and freezing her credit before.
Yeah. So we'll get back to that one.
Message about that too, but yes, because some of these they are looking at your credit, so you're going to have to unfreeze it. And I'm just saying that because I've been on
this one just came up. So this one, can you see this one too? It's at the very top from Samantha.
I can, and I would follow whatever your state is saying.
Right.
So if they're saying, wait and we'll let you know, I would do that. If your state's not saying anything, I would file now. As I know that I read an article about Colorado and they seem a little more on top of things than some other states. Wisconsin is basically just saying, we don't really know yet and we'll get back to you when we do. So for Wisconsin at least, and for other states, unless they're specifically saying, don't file at this point and we'll get back to you, I would file now. I see that Carissa is asking how long it's going to take. I don't think we know at this point. I mean, the funds are technically available now. They've been released, but it could take states a couple of weeks probably to get them kind of rolling out.
Okay. This one just came in. It's a Wisconsin one, if you see from Chris there.
Oh, so I practice Wisconsin.
I'm a partner in an S Corp, so I practice Wisconsin. I'm a partner S Corp. How do I go about applying for the employment? Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, go through the Department of Workforce Development Unemployment Insurance Division, Wisconsin.
DWD in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question on backdating. How far does this go? Is this?
So the federal portion will only be moving forward, but I would apply as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's because they're saying a lot of these states closed down in March,
Yeah.
And so some of these chiropractors, I think it was Kentucky and Colorado, both had states where they just closed their doors, which we're all doing what we can to help.
Yeah.
But this is starting now then. They can't go back. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the application will ask when your last day of employment was, but you'll only receive the federal benefits moving.
Okay, so this question keeps coming up, so I'm just going to answer it because I text John, who is our SBA loans expert webinar guest. Yes, you can file unemployment and still apply for the SBA loans. So that's what he just texted me.
Can you see the one from Stephen on there?
We have one clinical CA who was not comfortable working, so we advised she could choose to stay home. We continue to work. If we offer to have one leave to do one, do we have to offer it to all? Would she be entitled? I guess keep allowing one person to not come in.
Yeah, I think for unemployment purposes, she's probably not going to be entitled for unemployment because she's choosing not to work. And it's not, the concern about COVID-19 is not a fear, the fear of COVID-19 is not a reason not to work unless, again, her healthcare provider said that she shouldn't be working because, she's particularly susceptible or something like that. So she probably won't be entitled to unemployment. As far as kind of whether you need to offer a similar leave to other employees is a little complicated only because, you don't want to be kind of claims of discrimination. So if, she's the only, person in X protected class, that could cause an issue. But if it's just, she's the first person to ask or, she's the favorite or something based on the non-protected class reason, then I think it would be fine to not offer it to other people.
And I think that document we put out today that you helped me with, Erica, I think that would be helpful for everyone if we do something similar next week and bring all those questions. It was a question and answer type thing, similar questions that popped up here because they were all coming to me in Wisconsin here from my members. So we went through and picked out the main one. So I think we'll do that again next week then so people can see that. That will be helpful too.
Sure.
Are we doing okay on time, Chrissy, for these questions that keep popping in, or how do you want to do this? You want to save some for next week, or?
Let's take one or two more, and then we'll compile these with the ones from last
That's what I'm
week.
thinking. Some of these can compile. But...
let's see.
This one's the one from Craig is a little interesting there, so let's look at that one.
As an employer, can you choose to make 2 employees as essential and put 2 on unemployment?
Yes, I think it's on. I think you are certainly allowed to apply the healthcare provider exemption on a case-by-case basis. Again, as I mentioned before, and this is kind of outside of the scope of this presentation, but just avoiding concerns about employment discrimination and things like that.
I was just thinking that too. There's protected classes. You have to make sure you don't choose based on things you shouldn't be choosing.
Right. Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of employers. A lot of my clients recently about kind of how do we make layoff decisions and things like that. If you can do it right, job classification, that's great that, we can lay off our receptionist, but we can't lay off our technician, something like that is ideal. But, obviously I know it's not always kind of that clean cut.
No, correct. I think we're kind of hitting to some of the repetition now.
We are.
And some of the ones that came in later, this has been recorded, so they can just pick it up then too, right?
Yes, a link to the recording will go out to everyone this afternoon in about an hour. You can also go to the website ChiroHealthUSA.com/COVID, and a link to all of the webinar recordings since all of this began, along with all of the resources are available there, along with a way to register for the upcoming webinars.
That's next Thursday at noon, isn't it, Central Standard Time?
It is. I'm pulling those up now.
Okay.
Sorry.
And we'll take all these questions here and incorporate them. So kind of like a repeat.
We will. And just remember, for those of y'all who were on last week, we had almost 100 questions that we didn't even get to.
Yeah. It was an excellent program.
It was. So here we have the upcoming webinar, or these are the ones that we had today. We're wrapping up with Erica, but next week On Wednesday, we're going to be diving deep into telehealth and clearing up some of the confusion about telehealth and chiropractic, what you can and can't do, billing and coding correctly, that kind of thing with Dr. Scott Munsterman. And then on Thursday, Erica is going to be back with Joe and Kelly, and they're going to do a giant Q&A where we're going to talk about all this stuff and answer those questions that we haven't been able to get through in the 1 hour time frame that we've had.
Exactly.
That it's very exciting, but just remember, if you've missed anything or you want to go back and watch the recording, you don't have to email me to get a copy. Right below that, it says previous COVID-19 webinars on demand. And it's got every one that we have done from the beginning, including the original one with Don, the follow-up he did today where he was answering questions, the original webinar that we did on the
Excellent.
Families First Coronavirus Act. So, Response Act. So,
so if people haven't watched the first one, I think it'd be good to go back and look at it. We had three different topics that we hit. And some were on employee benefits. I mean, it was many different things and how it's all going to be affected with this pandemic. So I think it'd be good to look at that, and then you'll be prepared. And if you have questions, if they have questions already, Christy, can they send them to you?
Yes, absolutely. You can send them to me at Christy@ChiroHealthUSA.com. I will leave this open for y'all a few more minutes. Y'all can add some questions here if you need to. Robert and Jody, I just picked up yours that you just added. I've got everybody else's. So anybody who wants to add some questions, please feel free. If you think of something in the next day or two, again, just email me. You can probably reply to one of the emails that I have been sending out to y'all, and I will take care of it.
Yeah, because we'll be adding an independent contractor and a lot of other stuff next week.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a good program. Christy, thank you so much. And Erica, amazing again.
Thank you both. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, everybody. Y'all have a great day.